April 16, 1939. RAF Duxford Airfield, Cambridgeshire. Wind tears across the tarmac as a squadron of young pilots gather around a glistening silver aircraft, its elliptical wings catching the pale, English sun. The new Supermarine Spitfire sits like a bird poised for flight, its skin smooth, its frame slender, almost too slender for war. Pretty thing, isn't it? Squadron leader Douglas Bader murmurs, leaning on his cane. Shame it'll fall apart the moment a Hun looks at it. A few officers chuckle. To many within the Royal Air Force, the Spitfire looks more like a racing machine than a weapon. The dependable Hurricane, heavier, rugged, built like a bulldog, commands the real respect. It's the fighter you can patch with tape and send up again. The Spitfire, they whisper, is a toy for show. Test pilot George Onwin remembers those early flights well. She was twitchy, light on the stick. The old boys thought she'd never survive a scramble. Too fragile, too modern. But beneath that polished skin lies something extraordinary, the heart of the Merlin. Rolls-Royce's 27-liter V12 engine hums with 1,030 horsepower, eager to roar. Its song is smoother, sharper than anything else on the airfield. Chief designer R.J. Mitchell had built it for one purpose, to outclimb and outfight anything the Luftwaffe could send. Still, skepticism rules the mess halls. Commanders favor the Hurricane for its ease of production and stable gunnery platform. You can't win wars with elegance, one officer scoffs. You win them with steel. When the Germans invade Poland that September, Britain is still training, still doubting. The Spitfire squadrons remain a minority, often sidelined during exercises. Few realize that within a year, these same toys will become the fragile shield of an entire nation. By the spring of 1940, Europe burns. France crumbles. The Luftwaffe dominates the skies with the Messerschmitt Bf 109E, the sharpest blade in Hitler's arsenal. Its dive speed and climb rate terrify even veteran Hurricane pilots. As the British Expeditionary Force retreats to Dunkirk, the question echoes through every RAF command room. What can stop the 109s? That's when the Spitfires are called in. Their moment has arrived. May 27, 1940. The sky above Dunkirk burns red and black. Smoke coils upward from the beaches as thousands of British soldiers crouch beneath it, praying for rescue. The Luftwaffe swoops low, Stukas screaming like banshees, their sirens designed to break the soul. From the English coast, a squadron of Spitfire Mk roars into the rising sun. Blue section, tighten up, keep your eyes open. Flight Lieutenant Richard Hillary calls into the radio. His voice trembles with focus, not fear. This is his first real sortie. The Merlin engines snarl in unison, slicing through the Channel air. Below them, the sea glitters with columns of little boats racing toward France. Above, black dots on the horizon. Messerschmitts. The battle begins in seconds. Break right. Break right. Two 109s dive like hawks. Hillary yanks the stick. The Spitfire answers instantly. Light, alive, eager. The G-force slams him into his harness as he twists through the air, machine guns rattling. A burst of tracers cuts across the Messerschmitt's nose. It jerks, flames, and plunges toward the sea. Got one. Good God. She turns like a dream. Hillary gasps. For the first time, RAF pilots feel the Spitfire's gift, its agility, its climb, its grace in motion. It isn't fragile. It's alive. Against the heavier German fighters, the Spitfire can spiral upward like smoke, twist tighter, react faster. The sleek frame that once drew mockery now saves lives. But the price of glory is high. By nightfall, Dunkirk skies are littered with wrecks, Hurricanes, Spitfires, and Messerschmitts alike. The Channel glows faintly with burning fuel. On the beaches, exhausted soldiers cheer each time a Spitfire dives past to chase away the Stukas. The next morning, the press in London begins to speak of the angels of Dunkirk. They don't know the pilots barely slept. They don't know how many didn't return. By June, as the final troops leave Dunkirk sands, Britain faces the inevitable invasion. The Luftwaffe is preparing SEALO, Operation Sea Lion. And the only thing that can stop them is a thin line of fighters stationed along England's southern edge. The toy is now a weapon. The fragile bird is about to meet the storm. July 10, 1940. Southern England. Morning mist curls above the grass at RAF Biggin Hill. Ground crews move like ghosts, refueling, rearming, wiping sweat and oil from the Spitfire's slender wings. The air smells of petrol and tension. Pilot Officer Alan Deere checks his machine. Spitfire N3180, KLB. He runs a gloved hand along the fuselage, whispering, "You and me again, sweetheart." Around him, veterans and green boys alike strap in, each aware that today could be the day Germany comes. Then it happens. Bandits. 20 plus over Dover. Angels 15. The controller's voice crackles through the radio. Engines roar to life. Propellers blur. The Spitfires leap down the runway in pairs, their shadows flashing across the hedgerows. Within minutes, they're climbing toward a sky already boiling with contrails. High above, the Messerschmitt Bf-109Es appear, sleek, yellow-nosed predators. For months, RAF strategists had argued that the Hurricane should do most of the work, leaving the Spitfire for special engagements. But once the 109s pounce, it becomes brutally clear. Only the Spitfire can match them blow for blow. Deere spots one closing fast on a Hurricane. "Brake! Brake! Brake!" he shouts and dives. The Merlin screams as he pulls 6 GS. Tracers rip through the air. The 109 banks hard, but the Spitfire climbs with it. Almost vertical now, their engines howling in unison. The British fighter edges higher, its elliptical wings cutting cleaner air, and suddenly it's above the enemy. Deere flips over, squeezes the trigger. The German explodes into shards of silver flame. Below, the radio bursts with chaotic triumph. "They can't outturn us," a pilot yells. Not a chance. The myth of the fragile Spitfire dies that morning. Over the white cliffs of Dover, the aircraft proves it can climb faster, roll quicker, and strike harder at altitude than any German machine. Its lightness, once a flaw, is its genius. But the cost is relentless. Each day, the pilots go up again. Biggin Hill, Tangmere, Hornchurch, they burn through men like fuel. The airfields shake with the hammering of bombs. When the klaxons wail, sleep, food, and fear are forgotten. They run. They fly. They fight. In the mess hall, laughter hides exhaustion. "Still think she's a toy, Bader?" someone asks over tea that smells faintly of petrol. Bader grins, the corners of his mouth tight. "A toy," he says. "She's a bloody miracle." By mid-September, the Luftwaffe has thrown everything at the island. Heinkels, Dorniers, wave after wave of Me-109 escorts. Yet the Spitfire squadrons hold the line, weaving through sunlight and smoke like silver hawks. Civilians on the ground watch with awe and terror as trails of vapor carve the sky, white against blue, like the breath of angels defending their home. When the radio broadcasts Churchill's words, "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few," every pilot at Biggin Hill knows who he means. September 15, 1940. London. The sirens wail across the city as hundreds of bombers approach from the Channel. The Battle of Britain has reached its crescendo. Inside Fighter Command's operations room at Bentley Priory, WAF plotters move markers across a vast map, their voices sharp and calm over the rising hum of fear. Raid 47, strength, 100 plus, crossing the Thames estuary now. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park leans over the table, eyes fixed on the moving lights. "Scramble all of Group 11. Get them up there." At that moment, every Spitfire between Biggin Hill, Kinley, and North Weald is launched skyward. Engines thunder across the English countryside. The roar of the Merlin is no longer just a machine's cry. It is defiance itself. Above the clouds, the formation spreads wide. Flight Lieutenant Geoffrey Wellham, only 19, locks eyes with his wingman through the canopy. He can see the reflection of London burning in the glass. Right then, he mutters, "Let's give Jerry a proper welcome." The sky erupts. Messerschmitts dive headlong into the Spitfires, yellow noses flashing in the sun. The dance begins again, twisting, looping, rolling, a deadly waltz of vapor and flame. The Hurricanes hammer the bombers, but it's the Spitfires that hold off the 109s, cutting through them with surgical precision. Wellham pulls up beneath a Dornier, squeezes the trigger. 8 Browning .303s blaze. The bomber shudders, smoke trailing from its engines. Another wave breaks apart as the Spitfires claw the sky. On the ground, Londoners look up from the ruins and cheer. The once-mocked machine now rules the heavens above their city. By the afternoon, the Luftwaffe breaks. Göring's fighters, drained of fuel and nerve, turn back toward France. The great invasion that Hitler promised never comes. The Channel remains unconquered, a silver moat guarded by wings. When the last raid fades, the surviving pilots land on torn-up airstrips littered with shell casings. Ground crews rush out to greet them, the smell of burnt oil and victory thick in the air. Jeffrey Wellham climbs from his cockpit, face blackened, hands shaking. "How many today?" he asks. "Enough," says a mechanic. "Enough to make them think twice." That night, the Spitfire squadrons are too exhausted to celebrate. They eat quietly, heads bowed, while distant fires flicker on the horizon. Yet among them, something unspoken hums like the Merlin's idol, pride. The fragile toy has become a legend. Within months, the Spitfire will evolve again, stronger engines, broader wings, longer range, but its spirit will never change. To every man who flew it, it remained the same shimmering guardian that rose above a frightened island and refused to fall. In time, the aircraft's name would become more than metal and numbers. It would become a promise that when Britain's back was to the wall, grace and courage could still defy brute force. And those who once laughed at the Spitfire's fragility would remember the sound of its Merlin echoing across the cliffs of Dover, not as a toy's hum, but as the heartbeat of a nation that refused to die.